Namaskar, a very good morning and greetings on the eve of the nation's 74th Independence Day. On behalf of the Department of History, Ramakrishna Mission Vidyamandir Belur, I welcome you all to the national level webinar titled A Revolutionary State, which shall focus on the great revolutionary from Bengal, Pulin Behari. This webinar has been organized by the Department of History, Ramakrishna Mission Vidyamandir Belur, in collaboration with the Board of Control for Karate in India, Kolkata. Every year, it has been a tradition of the Department of History, Ramakrishna Mission Vidyamandir Belur, to organize our Independence Day lecture, the event being held between the 10th and 14th of August and is part of the inauguration of the department wall magazine, Pura Brick. The wall magazine is essentially an initiative by the students of the Department of History, and the same is inaugurated prior to the lecture. Unfortunately, circumstances beyond our control disallowed the students to work on the magazine, but we are hoping to bring out the same later this year. Meanwhile, till last year, the Independence Day lecture was held in the college campus, and the tradition of organizing the same continues, with the only exception that this year we are being forced to organize it as a virtual meet. So once again, I welcome all of you and thank you for taking time out and being here today as we bring this webinar live from the cultural capital of India. Today, I have the privilege and honor to welcome Sri Vishwaranjan Das and Sri Monish Ranjan Das, who are grandsons of the revolutionary Pulin Behari Das, who will talk about the revolutionary and his martial practice techniques of lathi, sword and knife play handed down to the family by the great revolutionary himself and of its relevance in our times. So a very warm welcome to both Sri Vishwaranjan Das and Sri Monish Ranjan Das. I would now like to welcome Revered Swami Ekachittanandaji Maharaj, Principal, Ramakrishna Mission Vidyamandir. Joining me today are also my colleagues from the Department of History, Professor Shantanu De, who would be moderating the question and answer session, and Professor Gautam Mukhopadhyay, who would deliver today's vote of thanks. I would also like to extend a warm welcome to Professor Abhishek Borman, Head of the Department of Computer Science, who in spite of his prior commitments have agreed to lend a helping hand in the technical aspect involved in this meet. I would now request Swami Ekachittanandaji Maharaj, Principal, Ramakrishna Mission Vidyamandira, to kindly inaugurate the event and say a few words to all the participants and viewers. Maharaj.
Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhetamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Respected Sri Vishwaranjan Das, respected Sri Monish Ranjan Das, two distinguished speakers of the day, respected Professor Prithviraj Vishwas, Sri Gautam Mukhopadhyay, and other distinguished colleagues of the faculty members of the Department of History, and my beloved students who are watching this webinar. My respect, love, good wishes in due places. My special thanks and gratitude to Professor Vishwaranjan Das and Sri Monish Ranjan Das for giving consent for taking part in this webinar. Actually, we are arranging this webinar since last 2 months or so, a series of webinars going on. And especially on the eve of the Independence Day, the Department of History has organized this event. I'm very grateful to Professor Prithviraj Vishwas for that. Because actually it's a grand opportunity for all of us to pay our homage, our heartfelt respect to the great martyr, to the great son of the soil. Tomorrow, once again, we will be having a similar event by 10:25 a.m. I urge all the listeners to join us tomorrow on the Facebook page. So this event is very much pertinent. It assumes a great deal of significance because in this COVID-19 pandemic era, were trembling with fear at each and every moment. But Swami Vivekananda, the visionary behind Ramakrishna Mission Vidyamandira, who envisioned of this great institution, he writes in his poem uh, on the dreadful nature of the Divine Mother. He illustrates, terror is in thy breath, terror is thy name, death is in thy breath. One who dares misery love, to him mother comes. That's been the expression of Swamiji. So we are happy that one great son of the soil, Sri Pulin Behari Das, who endangered his own existence, his own life, he gave up everything for this dearest motherland, and who dared to uh, love misery, dared to love death. So on that great personality, we'll be contemplating over the next 1 hour or so. So once again, on behalf of Ramakrishna Mission Vidyamandira, and in particular on behalf of the Department of History, I welcome Sri Vishwaranjan Das and Sri Manish Ranjan Das. I pray to Holy Trial a grand success to this event. I would have been much happy to join you, remain present all over the webinar session, but due to my personal engagement, I cannot do so. I do expect that when life becomes normal, Sri Monish Ranjan Das and Sri Vishwaranjan Das comes to our campus and we can have direct one-to-one correspondence or live interaction with our students. They will be much be benefited by that. Once again, I welcome Sri Monish Ranjan Das and Sri Vishwaranjan Das. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.
Thank you, Maharaj, for inaugurating the session and for your words. Now, before I go further, I want to review the functionality of the webinar. Right now, we have everyone on mute to avoid background noises that may distract you from listening to the webinar. Throughout the presentation, our technical team will be managing the chat functionality. You can enter your questions and comment in the question box throughout the presentation. I would now like to introduce Sri Vishwaranjan Das and Sri Monish Ranjan Das. Sri Vishwaranjan Das, the elder of the two grandsons, is a businessman by profession and has a keen interest in history. He holds the black belt under various styles and learned kickboxing in Thai style and has been practicing for the last 40 years. He is also adept with other form of martial arts and into further study of present-day self-defense. Sri Monish Ranjan Das, the younger grandson, is a chartered accountant and also holds the black belt in karate. Additionally, he has been national champion in both demonstration and fighting of Indian weapons like lathi, knife, and sword. Both the speakers, by virtue of being the grandson of Pulin Behari Das, carries a prodigious legacy of the great revolutionary, who, it is argued, actually invented scientific uses of weapons like the lathi, sword, and knife in modern India. With these few words of introduction, I would now request Sri Vishwaranjan Das and Sri Monish Ranjan Das to address the meet. Sir, please.
Namaskar to everybody. Yes, Thank you very much, everybody. You know, I am Vishwaranjan Dash speaking over here with respect to all the knowledgeable participants and the dignified presence of Shami Ekochittanando. And I'm really thankful to Dr. Prithviraj Vishwash for organizing this wonderful event, which was quite unlikely at this present moment, but I'm not going to use that particular word that is being quietly widespread at this moment, and which has really been into the very pensive and saddened mood in this whole world. But even in this situation, we have taken issue particularly thankful to Prithviraj, and I know for sure that Monish has also with you to bring out this particular issue so that we can discuss something different so that our mind can be diverted and we can learn quite a lot of history which normally we don't find in the text. So here I am really honored, as well as my brother Manish, from the core of our heart, uh, that you have invited us to speak on this occasion. And I will read out a little bit about our family, so that I am today, in fact, missing my father, Sri Shorendranath Das, who, in fact, was quite close with him during his second phase of life in Kolkata. He has taught us his principles, and he has taught us the techniques that he has learned from Pulin Behari in the latter part after 1926. So I would have been really happy if my father Shorendranath Das was present here and have seen this particular meeting, which he's no longer. So at the same time, I am remembering my Boro and Choto Pishi, my paternal aunt. Actually, my Choto Pishi, Srimati Jayanti Chaudhary, is still alive. My cousin sisters and brothers, particularly Babulda, Ronjida, Abjida, Totadi, Kopati, Rinjindi, Chondadi, Abjida, and all my relatives and friends who are watching this seminar. I am really grateful to them. Now, today, what we are doing, that we are resurfacing uh, our greatest of revolutionaries in the world. And why I call him a greatest of revolutionaries, that you will find in my later deliberations. So he was not in the surface. So am really thankful to Manish as well as Prithviraj to take a wonderful and enormous initiative so that these heroes of India, for which we have been influenced the latter part of the revolutions, and these people to be resurfaced again, and we are doing this particular job right today. Now, as you see the first slide, I will go actually the true life version of Pulin Behari Das instead of what is there in the history book, or what are there in the references, and what is the various fractions of internet that we normally see and know about him. Now, to go about that, let me tell you that Pulin Behari Das, what is written, unlike to what is written in the internet, that he was from a middle class family in Bangladesh, but Pulin Behari Das was actually from a very rich Jamindar family in Bangladesh, and all his family members used to be very, very educated, and his father as well was a magistrate, and he never used to travel without a elephant. So that was the family culture he has brought in. And why I'm talking about this particular rich heritage, I would not say, because Pulin Behari Das used to say it is not a rich heritage, it is actually a very nasty and wrong heritage that we belong, and he came out of that particular rich Jamindar heritage and been properties taken throughout his life. and at the same time he has sold all his assets, jamindari assets, uh, for the sake of the organization and the motherland. So if I go to the second slide, so that will speak about where he actually belonged. Can I have the second slide, please? Yes. The thing is, actually, the Pulin Behari Das or our family belong to the Bardhaman Gram, which of Haripur Gram of the Bardhaman district. Then his grandfather shifted to Faridpur district in Bangladesh due to his occupation, and his childhood spent in Madaripur as well as Shariatpur and Faridpur. His revolutionary path was in Dhaka. Can I go to the next slide, please? So, as long as his education is concerned, so before that I will tell all of you in general that we have divided this discussion into two parts. That the first part that I'm speaking at the moment is on his ideology, his early life expertise and in politics, and his ideology and his desire. And the second part would be based on his desire, what he has done after his retirement from the politics. He has created a wonderful thing, and the legacy that what we as grandsons are doing. So on the basis of that, if I go for the childhood, so in the childhood he grew up with the interest in mathematics and sports in general and playing football. So sometimes later in his life, his interest shifted into techniques and playing of lathi, shod, and knife. But his interest in mathematics remained intact. In fact, he was so good at mathematics in Faridpur Jila School that the renowned mathematician you will find in the slide in the left part, Sri K.P. Basu, who took the help of Pulin Behari Das to publish his first book, perhaps in 1896. And so he was quite a good student as well. And at the same time, his interest has been, and the curiosity on the martial arts stimulated his mind, and gradually becoming a master hands as a teenager, and started to organize fellow friends and neighborhoods to stand by any offenses in the society. So if I go to the fourth slide, kindly. Can I have the next slide, please? So where I am speaking about his influences. So from the childhood, he has certain influences like what we have also. But the thing is, the influences plays a major role of a human being. You know, if we are being influenced by a film star, so the kind of a man I will become once upon a time, and if we have influence of certain people that I'm showing the he had, so naturally I will become that kind of person. So influence in the childhood has a great say in your what you are going to be in the future. So he was particularly quite. I should say he was always in. It was always in his heart the history of Chhatrapati Shivaji. Uh, his mother used to read out Devi Chaudhurani by Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay. He used to be influenced by that. He was constantly influenced by the life and words of Swami Vivekananda, and he was quite uh, what should I say, he was quite in touch with Rabindranath Tagore, and whom he thought a true patriot and a very perfect Bengali. And he was also very close to Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose and Sri Prafulla Chandra Rai. At the same time, Ashwini Chandra Mitra. I'm sorry, it is Oshini Dotto. So regarding Oshini Dotto, you might be knowing he is a good educationist as well as a philanthropist and a good patriot. So if I go to the next slide. So in the childhood, he was learning Lathi Shod and the martial art in general. So during the teenage period, he was learning along with certain friend of his this Lathi and Shod and the technique from Abbas Sardar, that is in Tikatuli forest in nearby Faridpur, and later on from Alathial, Professor Murtaja, because he used to be called Professor, this particular self-proclaimed uh, professor has been created by or being said by Murtaja himself, and became the bodyguard of Dhaka Nawab once upon a time. And of time, he was a juggler and a showman. But the thing is, what I like to tell about this particular slide, what Pulin Behari used to say, that though he learned various techniques and martial art from them, but later during his work on Lati and Oshi, he wrote about those so-called Sardars and the Latials who are actually quite an expert in technique, but missing morality and spirit of the art. It was mainly used to do either for the reason of dacoity, defeat, or kill. So these are never developed their physical, mental, and spiritual abilities. At the same time, they couldn't develop further on their students to be a very morally and physically and mentally good character and good person. So they used to become a showman at the end of the day, or if somebody is not a showman, they resort to dacoity and street fighting and a lot of other things by learning those latis and all. So, so this is all about this particular one. Then I will come to the next slide, which actually has become he's entering into the bigger life. So that is during the period of 1905, that is the partition of Bengal. His entry to freedom struggle began, and few things incised in his mind and grew up with the idea of social structure need to be based on Sanatan Vedic institution, and it is to be established through by force. And why force, you can understand that for 700 years, one kind of dependence, and 200 years, one kind of dependence. So, total 900 years of dependence cannot be in a jiffy, it cannot go off. So, it is to be done by force, and constant social reforms in turn value for Sanatan nationalism. And this particular thing, when I'm talking about this Sanatan nationalism, you might be curious in your mind that what actually being taught about or being thought about this Sanatan uh, nationalism as such. So during this time, he was in touch with Barrister Pronoto Mitro. So about Barrister Pronoto Mitro, you will get a total details in the history. So I'm not going into that, but I will speak about one thing. Despite his family being into other religion, Barrister Mitro remained a very strong Hindu throughout his life, and he has given all his thoughts, and he has given mantra to Pulin Behari Das on the basis of Hindu Sanatanism. Now, in 1906, Pulin Behari Das entered the Anushilan Shomiti, and he has gone into that. If I go to the next slide, I will take a little bit of time on what is that on the Sanatan. Now, in Bengali, it translates that Boirajyo. Boirajyo means that right to mankind. Swarajyo, that means complete freedom from terror, panic, imposition, and living in moral and blissful society. And Shamrajyo, that means creating constitution on the basis of humanity, justice, and peace. Now, here I like to mention here that Pulin Behari Das never in his lifetime or in any writing of his or from his mouth, we have never heard that he said that any other religion or any other religious practice be stopped. But he said that Indian constitution should be made on the basis of the pre-independence nationalism or pre-independence Hindu culture. Means we have forgotten due to our strong dependency for over 900 years. His idea was that we have to get out of it, we have to learn, we have to read quite a lot, and he didn't believe the importing ideas of revolution from other countries, because the country to country the revolution social structure that differs, and he was a strong-willed person, so he knew that in those cases uh, the imported kind of revolutions cannot be applicable to the Indian context. So, hence, these led Pulin Behari Das project a niche which made different from other revolutionaries. So, here I like to say one thing. In his writing, The Secret of Work, Swami Vivekananda said, be unattached. Let things work. Let brain center work. Let work incessantly, but let not rebel, conquer the mind. And Pulin Behari Das followed that totally. So he has a super physical ability despite being quite lean and thin, and complete mastery on war strategies, and expert himself in fighting, an extraordinary organizer. So it is very rare, you will agree, to be in one man all the things that he was ideologically very strong, he was physically very strong, he was a very strong a strategist, and at the same time he was a superb organizer. So with his ideology during that time, he could organize about 1 lakh youth with military capacity throughout the then Bengal, Assam, to some extent Bihar and UP as well. That I have heard that from my family source that in Kanpur also there is a good bit of a student and a youths who are ready to fight the British. And these all happened before the Chattogram armory raid in 1930, around perhaps during this time, or the Bhagat Singh and the James Scott. This is during that time. So these all are much before Pulin Behari Das has already framed and organized and ideologically very thoughtful. Much before to that, so we can easily say that the latter part of the Indian Revolution was quite being influenced by the kind of revolutionary that Pulin Behari Das was. So by virtue of that, he became a supreme leader of Dhaka Anushilan Shomiti and threat to the British government. If I go to the next slide, please. So there came Sidney Rawat, and that is maybe the reason that Salked in his book Onushilan Shramiti Dhaka and also the Sedition Committee report during that time, which said it is clear that the Onushilan Shramiti is a well organized and extremely organized revolutionary society of which Pulin is the head with dictatorial power. From this, it follows that the history of Onushilan Shomiti is the real history of Pulin. So actually, it is not my version. It is or the version of any Indian. It is a version of the Britishers who was having an opinion about Pulin Behari Das during that period. I say it is between 1915 to 1918. So can I have the next slide, please? So between 1906 to 1910 supposed to be the active and the most creative part of his political career and has been a tremendous threat to British government, and English people started to think that Bengal has shaken their head as the Babu Bhadralok culture or the trustworthy to lords concept to revolutionary mindset and taking furious part of armed struggle, and Puli Behari Das was indeed spearheading the movement along with Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Lala Lajpat Rai and Bipin Chandra Pal. However, the difference was only Pulin Behari Das by his own self was physically, ideologically and strategically well equipped. He was such a threat that British could not wait but put him behind bars in faraway Punjab so that he could lose all his connections. During the second part, about to talk about this particular slide, during the second part of the revolutionary life, the English people could not take many chances but to put him on the trial and jail him to cellular in Andaman in April 1980. But his organizing capacity was so high that even in his absence, the Shamiti was performing supremely under his guidance. So he was released in 1920. There he met Bir Savarkar, that is an important point to be noted here. And as per the wish of Savarkar, they together wanted to form a Hindu nationalist party. Perhaps this kind of information are normally not there in the history book, or you will not find in the internet as such. This is all we know personally. And by looking at the negative interpretation of Savarkar about the people of Bengal, he declined the idea despite that it was heard by our family source as well as you will find in the internet too. Savarkar told Dr. Hedgaonkar, the founder of RSS, to meet Pulindas to know about Hindu nationalism when he was studying medical in Kolkata, and in fact, he spent few nights in Pulindas's house. By the core of his heart, he stuck into the idea of armed struggle and the principle of independence by the laws of Indian heritage and culture. So during that time only, there was quite an ongoing concept which had philosophical differences like non-violence and socialist movement in India. Quite obviously, he used to contradict those ideas. In fact, Gandhiji was quite alert of the activities and values of Pulin Behari Das and expressed his desire to meet him. And it happened at the house of Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das as a closed-door meeting. So this meeting, in fact, was quite an noise and uproar amongst the people of India and can be called as battle of philosophy during that time. So I will speak a few initial words of that meeting upfront of how the meeting was. So there Gandhiji said, I shall have to convert you or shall be converted by you. In presence of Motilal Nehru, where Motilal Nehru said with a very sarcastic smile, if you could convert C.R. Das to your fold, then will it be so difficult for you to convert Puli? To which Gandhi said, no, I have to crack a harder nut. And perceptibly, Gandhiji could not crack that harder nut. So there was a big difference during that time only. I can remember a time, perhaps 1923 to 25, between this time, maybe a little later. I may confuse the time. So during that time, Rabindranath Tagore as well was not very convinced about the idea of Gandhi and the non-violence to have the freedom for India. Therefore, we find in the renowned drama of Rabindranath Tagore in 1923, which was released in 1923, that is Rakto Korobi. If you go for the few lines in the last two pages, you will find that Rabindranath was contradicting the idea of non-violence. So there uh, was a big rift between, it was much before Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose came into the frame of Indian freedom struggle. There was a big philosophical difference between Mahatma Gandhi, Chittaranjan Das, Sharat Chandra Bose, as well as a lot of Congress people during that time, as well as Pulin Behari. So roughly during this period of 1926 onwards, that Indian freedom struggle, if it is to be called a freedom struggle or a positional struggle, it would be subject for historian to follow. Now I like to point it again. During the 1926, really it is to be a big uh, thought. It should be a big thought in everyone's mind whether it was really a Indian freedom struggle or a positional struggle. So, which will be all the historians as well as the citizen of India to decide. So the non-violence movement was in full flow, as well as the Marxian movement as well during that time. Hence, Pulin Behari Das's idea of armed struggle and freeing the India as per the concept of Hindu nationalism was loosening up. So he took retirement from the active politics in 1928, but went on to carry on his vision by the way of developing the youths and prepare them as ideal candidate to fight for the homeland. Clearly, his vision was the power of character is as good as the power of knowledge. To have a power of character, one need to have physical, mental, and spiritual development. So his vision, if I go to the last slide, please. Mm, so his mission started by forming one organization called Bongyo Bam Shomiti. Before that, he formed another organization, Bharat Shevak Sangh. And there is a history of Bongyo Bam Shomiti, which is going to be elaborated by my brother Monish Ranjan Das. And this history says that Bongyo Bam Shomiti was quietly and grossly and closely associated with Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose, as well as Bidhan Chandra Rai. And during that time only, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose used to frequent his house, and they used to have a long discussion on various subjects. And I believe most of the content of the subject was the Indian freedom struggle. So, with that, I leave my session. I think I have taken quite a bit of time for that. If it is, I'm a bit thankful to Prithviraj for giving me so much of time. And I'm leaving the matter with Monish to speak about the Bongyo Bam Shomiti and his creation, his desire, his work, and his scientific invention. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak in this uh, auspicious moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prithviraj, for organizing this seminar. I'd like to thank Ramakrishna Mission Vidyamandir for giving us this platform. And from my side, I'd like to also share a personal experience of working with Ramakrishna Mission. In 1993, I was part of the audit team of Ranchi Ramakrishna Mission Moradabadi, and I spent more than a month in Ranchi. So I've got very fond memories of spending good time with Maharaj and the other people there in Ranchi Ramakrishna Mission. So the second session is on the history of Bongyo Bam Shamiti, which was formed in 1928. In the previous session, we discussed about what was his political career and activity till 2020, and briefly touched about beyond that period also. But here in the slide, you can see that we are trying to have a bridge between the activities, what happened in 1920 and 1928 when Pulindas formed Bongyo Bam Shamiti. So what was his activity post-release from cellular jail in 1918 is largely unknown to many. And a lot of people believe that his political career was over by 1920. So let's ride a time machine. What happened between 1920 and 1928 to see the dramatic changes of political scenario during this period, and which eventually led Pulindas to form Bongyo Bam Shamiti in 1928. Before starting the journey, let's see who were the big influencers we discussed in session 1 also of Pulindas throughout his political career. And during the journey, we would see what happened to them in this period. The first name which comes to our mind is Barrister P. Mitro, the founder, president of Anushilan Shamiti. Next is Barrister C.R. Das, Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das, Bankim Chandra Pal, Bal Gangadhar Tilak, etc. Now, here we can point out that if we go through the autobiography of Pulindas, you won't see that Aurobindo Ghosh was also the founder, vice president of Anushilan Shamiti, along with C.R. Das. But Shamiti, one faction was P. Mitro and his team. The second faction was Aurobindo and his team. And Pulindas belonged to the faction of P. Mitro. So he had a tremendous influence on Pulindas. So Pulindas was released from Andaman Cellular Jail in 1918, and after 1.5 years of home arrest and different other jails, finally he was released in 1920, and thereafter he came to Kolkata. In September 1920, there was a special Congress session in Calcutta where Gandhiji for the first time could convince Congress to take non-violence as a critical resolution. And then in December 1920, in the famous Nagpur Congress, Gandhiji could convince the majority of Congress senior leaders to accept non-violence and non-cooperation. It may be mentioned here that in 1910, when Pulindas was in the prison, his biggest influencer, Barrister P. Mitro, died. During the absence of Pulindas from 1910, Makhon Sen took the post of Pulindas and led Dhaka Anushilan Shamiti. And by 1919, 1920, when Pulindas finally was released from imprisonment, Makhon Sen, along with many of his followers, accepted the principle of non-violence. Bal Gangadhar Tilak died in 1920. So think of the scenario in 1920 when Pulindas came to Kolkata. His primary influencers, P. Mitro, is no more. His followers or associate Makhan Sen and the big part of Anushilan Samiti has accepted the principle of non-violence of Gandhiji. And in 1920, Bal Gangadhar Tilak also passed away. So Pulin Das, after coming to Kolkata and facing some initial personal challenges, started working with Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das. At that point in time, C.R. Dash, along with very prominent leaders of Congress, Motilal Nehru, Madan Mohan Malviya, initially were very strongly against non-violence and non-cooperation. The non-cooperation movement was mainly on boycotting of three things we all know from history books. One is boycotting of schools and colleges. The second is boycotting of council for Montego Commission. And the third one is boycotting of legal systems. Later on, Gandhiji convinced C.R. Dash, and in effect, C.R. Dash asked Pulin Dash to support non-cooperation by striking off the name of his eldest son, Tejendranath Dash, from Hindu school to showcase a big example. Pulin Dash was against all three principles of boycott, hence disagreed with him. C.R. Das also offered Pulin Das the big task of organizing the National Volunteers of Congress, provided he agrees to support non-violence and non-cooperation of Gandhiji, which also Pulin Das refused and declined to accept on the ground of principle. So during this time, Gandhiji wanted a one-on-one discussion with Pulin Das, and which happened in the residence of C.R. Das, and that continued for 3 days, in which Pulin Das straight away negated and refused to accept Gandhiji's principle of non-violence. During this time, Isar Das, the cousin brother of uh, Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das, called Pulin Das for a discussion on political way forward. So these events, non-acceptance of non-violence and association with Isar Das, created a distance between C.R. Das and Pulin Das. Thereafter, in 1922, Subhash Chandra Bose entered politics. In 1921, he came back to India, and 1922, he entered active politics. And C.R. Das was a mentor of Subhash Chandra Bose. So the distance widened. And in 1923, C.R. Das again formed another party, Swaraj Party, which was actually a faction of Congress, along with Motilal Nehru, to contest the election for councils. So this way, the distance between Pulin Das and Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das, they, they were far away with the principles. And then in 1925, C.R. Das also passed away. In 1926, one more influencer, Bipin Chandra Pal, decided to keep himself out of politics. In 1932, he expired, but from 1926, he decided to keep himself out of politics. So again, if we think of the scenario of the past influencer of Pulin Das and his distance with C.R. Das, and the last one, which is his association of Isar Das, all those things are playing behind the scene in the active political role of Pulin Das. And Pulin Das discussed the way forward with Isar Das in this manner, that he want to come out of the political limelight, and then behind the scene, he want to improve the character of youth by giving them physical, mental, and spiritual strength. So by 1926, all the old influencers are gone. He was left with Esar Das only. And in 1928, unfortunately, at a very young age, Esar Das also passed away. So Pulin Das also started with Esar Das two magazines, Hok Katha and Swaraj, and also for a brief period of time, he created a Shangha called Bharat Seva Shangha that also he disbanded. So by 1928, he decided to go by his own and started Bongio Bam Samiti. So if we can move to the next slide, please. This is a Google map where we have pointed out in red box where currently Bongio Bam Samiti is. So there was a dump yard just behind the residence of Acharya Prafulla Chandra Bose, which is called Bosu Mandir. So those who are familiar or from Kolkata, so they can understand it's a very prominent location just behind Bosu Vigyan Mandir or just very close to Rajabaja Science College. So in 1928, there was a dump yard in this place. The area was approximately 20 kathas in Machua Bajar area, which Pulin Das cleaned with the help of his student, fenced, and started Bongio Bam Samiti. It was popularly known as Pulin Das Akhara. In 1930, Subhash Chandra Bose became the mayor of Kolkata Corporation. These are the things probably you won't get in any of history books or in internet also. And he allotted this place under his signature. We got the allotment letter officially from Kolkata Corporation on long-term lease. So a lot of prominent personalities of Kolkata like Prabhudayal Himmat Singha, the renowned parliamentarian, Gyan Majumdar, Ramkumar Bhavalka, the industrialist, Pramod Dasgupta, they used to come to Samiti for some political discussion or as their patronage for this particular Samiti. The Samiti took a major role during the riot of August 1946. Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose was so impressed with stick fighting that he, during his time, made it compulsory for all his research students to learn stick fighting. The Samiti never got government patronage. In 1960s, Kolkata Corporation instructed to give away 50%, which is approximately 10 kathas, to construct a postgraduate hostel. So after a lot of reluctance and a lot of discussion, Samiti had to sacrifice that land, and the balance area still exists. And till early part of 2000, after Pulin Das passed away, Shorendranath Das, our father, maintained that Samiti along with his other associates, Ramkumar Shamanto and Supreme Court lawyer, very renowned lawyer, Amarendranath Moitro. And we used to practice stick, dagger, and sword techniques regularly in that particular premises. 28 January is the birthday of Pulin Das, and every year till early part of 2000, on 28 January, we used to celebrate the birthday of Pulin Das with the demonstration of these techniques. Can we move to the second slide, please? The next slide. So these are some of the photographs. On the left-hand side, you can see the old photo of Bongio Bam Samiti. On the right-hand side top, that is one of the very old photograph taken by Pulin Das, and we will discuss about this particular techniques and how he used to record during this era. He used to record the different sequences of Lathi Khala, short technique, and all those things so that people can, or any student can understand the different techniques different techniques by looking at the pictures. So this is one of those old picture. The next one is the picture of Shorendranath Das giving training on sword fighting, and a latest picture in early part of 2000 where the students are practicing in Bhungiyo Vyam Samiti. So we can move to next slide, please. Pulin Das was very particular about discipline, and there was a saying in the locality that people used to match their watch when Pulin Das used to open the gate of Bhungiyo Vyam Samiti sharp at 4 p.m. He took his last breath on 17th August 1949 while doing the same. So people in large numbers started flocking the premises immediately after the news of his expiry. And Bidhan Roy, this is another history probably you won't get anywhere in the history book. Bidhan Roy immediately sent his special representative to allot a special area in Nimtola Burning Ghat for his cremation, which is parallel to the special area given to Prafullo Chandra Rai, Acharya Prafullo Chandra Rai. So this is the memorial of Acharya Prafullo Chandra Rai, which is very close to or just bang opposite to Rabindranath Tagore's memorial in Nimtola Burning Ghat. And later on, this memorial was constructed by state government, but Pulin Das was ignored. So we used to go there along with our father in the morning of 17th August every year to pay our homage. But this was discontinued as the place is currently inaccessible due to the renovation of Nimtola Burning Ghat. So with that, we move to the next portion, which is his scientific invention, which is stick fighting. So in this slide, I've just taken some of the pictures of a book, which we will talk about in the last slide. The book is called Ostrocharcha, and our thanks and sincere gratitude to Deeptonil Roy and Nikhilesh Bhattacharya of Jadavpur University to compile all his manuscript on Lathi Khelas, that is stick fighting, sword fighting, dagger fighting, jujutsu, and publish it from Jadavpur University Press in the form of a Bengali book, and that book is called Ostrocharcha. So I have taken some of the snaps from that particular book. So those who are interested definitely can see the moves in that particular particular book called Ostrocharcha. And I'd also like to thank my friend Kaushik Mojumdar for his tireless effort and passion to finally get this book printed along with Deeptonil and Nikhilesh. So we were talking about the scientific invention. Now, a lot of people ask that before Pulin Das, those things were very much in practice, particularly Lathi Khela, or if we think about the sword fighting, that is coming on since ages, from Mughal ages and beyond that also. So what's so special about Pulin Das? So there was a, which in the session 1 also we pointed out, that initially he started learning it from Abbas Sardar and later on from Professor Martaja. And then he understood that stick fighting is going on since ages, but nobody tried to go deep and understand the science behind it. So it was traditionally being taught as a Guru Shishya Parampara, teacher-student tradition, with some techniques which passed on from teacher to student with no understanding of the science behind it. So over the period of time, that became somewhat unscientific as explained by Pulin Das. So after learning from Abbas Sardar and Professor Martaja, he was not satisfied with the techniques and he explored the science behind it. So in the pictures, you can see that he has explained the center of gravity. He has explained what would be the standard height of the stick. He has explained in the second picture, you can see this, he has explained the stepping with all those parameters. What would be the distance between 2 feet and what would be the angle And with all precisions, there are 5 stanzas. So he has given the details of all those stanzas there. So if we can move to the next slide, please. Thereafter, first he explained the science on the basis of the principles of the laws of physics, and then he moved a step forward. If you see the left-hand side picture, he has studied deep into the impact of those strikes of sword or stick on the nerves and the musculoskeletal structure. So he has described, you can see the different pointers and the numbers. He has described everything regarding uh, where is going to hit what nerve or the muscles or the bone it is going to impact. And on that basis, he explained the entire gamut of science, be it the physical science or the biological or the biomechanical motion and the impact of individual strike of those things behind, or rather the science behind those strikes. And the second one, you can see that he was doing all those research during the period where there was no Google, no internet. The kind of research he has done to explain the center of oscillation, center of gravity of the sword, you can well imagine the effort he has given to explain the science behind these techniques. So that is the speciality of Pulin Dash, that he really got deeper into the science of these things and came out with the final formula explaining the different categories of the stick fighting, dagger fighting, and sword fighting. So if we can move. So these two are the books. The first one I mentioned earlier, Ostrochorcha, which was published by Jadavpur University. And the second one is the autobiography of Pulin Behari Dash. And whatever information we have taken, that we have taken from these two books. So these are the authentic sources of information. Obviously, we have taken some more inputs from our own family members, which we mentioned in the first session. Dada, would you like to add on something here?
Regarding as long as the Ostrochorcha or the martial art in Indian context. So we hear about a few styles like Kalari Pattayu in Kerala or Marmoati or Silambam in Tamil Nadu or Thangla in Manipur or even Gatka in Punjab. And in most of the cases, the spirit of learning or building of character is missing. So Pulin Behari Das used to believe and usually said that Sharir Madang Kalu Dharma Sadhanam. So if your body is not in perfect life force, mind becomes sick, and with a sick mind you cannot build a good character and a good job. In absence of a good character, even a very qualified person does wrong to the society and the world. So, what Manish was telling you about Ostrochorcha, basically, I like to tell you in general that Ostrochorcha is not fighting or defeating or killing somebody, but it is for the development of your own mental, physical, and moral self. So this is all about the Ostrochorcha. I like to in today's context. It was in the context earlier. So there used to be the Japanese ninjas or various latials or the Thogi Sampradaya, to whom we know they used to fight for the lords and they used to kill or defeat other person. But here, Pulin Behari Das did a unique invention of learning the various weapons by which we can develop ourselves, we can develop our character, and we can develop the morality as well. Manish, you can take up.
So now we have got some videos where we'd be showing you the live demonstration of different techniques. And when we'd be playing the videos, we will just give you the science behind it and why it is important for the stick fighting gradual session. So we can play the videos, please. This one is called single Benity. So you can see that we are using a single stick. This particular form, the Benity, is this is a stick. This is a cane stick, slightly flexible, and this is used for the flexibility of arms, joints, and this is also very useful for increasing the stamina. This is the first part of stick fighting training. So we start everything, all the training with this single Benity. This one is called Harua, and there you can see that in the earlier one we were using only one hand, but here we are using two hands. This is the second step. The stick what we are using here is also different from Benity. Benity is a cane stick, but Harua is typically, you can compare this to be a bow stick. It is made of solid bamboo, and this is the stick which is used for the real fighting. Borlati wrong, here it is actual fighting. It is a mock fight that we demonstrated in Bagbajar Puja Samiti on Vidashtami, which happens every year on Ashtami. This technique is the advanced technique where somebody is using a stick or a sword and the other person is barehanded. So that is the advanced version, which is called Binod, and another term which is used by Jujutsu, which currently is very popular in Japan, the name and also the form, but that's originated from India. So we are showing the sword blocking technique here with the actual sword. This is the most critical one, where the synchronization is of vital importance. You can well understand that you are using two hands together and rotating the sticks almost on an opposite direction. So this is done at the last once you are familiar with the other techniques.
I think we do we have any more videos?
No, that's
okay. So I would like to thank both Sri Bisharanjan Das and Sri Monish Ranjan Das for outlining in a very intimate and engaging manner the life and activities of the illustrious Bengali revolutionary Pulin Behari Das. I'm sure all of us who are participating in this national webinar have been mesmerized by the amazing skills that both the speakers displayed in the videos. I think the very fact that both of them, as grandsons of Sri Pulin Behari Das, are still actively continuing to disseminate the tradition of physical and martial heritage of their grandfather needs to be applauded and given due appreciation. So now, with those words, I would like to go over to the few questions which have come from our participants. These have not been specifically addressed to any one speaker, so I would request Sri Vishwaranjan Das as well as Manish Ranjan Das to take it up as they please. I will go on to the first question which has come, and I will couple it up with the second question as well, because both of them speak of the same issue. Shaptarshi Chakraborty asks, how can Sanatan Dharma and nationalism be associated within the same phrase with completely different connotations? And there is another question to the same effect, which is by Shushovan Sengupta from Narendrapur College, who asks, nationalism in the modern term was a new concept for India in the early 19th century. So how can the term Sanatan be used for nationalism? I request the speakers to kindly take up the questions and answer them. Vishwaranjan Babu?
Yes. Yeah. Shantanu, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I asked the questions. Those have been put up. One is regarding how can you couple up the terms Sanatan Dharma or Sanatan with a modern phrase like nationalism. Do you think that these two terms can coexist? What is your take on it?
That's a very good question. I expected this question should come. First of all, I like to tell you that I'm not a historian or a political analyst, or I have framed the Indian Constitution. So I'm just a narrator of on behalf of Pulin Behari. Now, if you have gone through the various writings of Pulin Behari, you will find that this particular word, national Hinduism or Hindu nationalism, that is being explained in today's context. The question would have been even perfect if you would have asked me, how do you differentiate the Sanatananism and nationalism? So that I have already explained.
Right.
That I have already explained that he wanted the Indian constitution to be made on the basis. He has always in the favor of other religion. He was never against them. But the thing is, since we belong to certain heritage and culture, and that was there for quite a long time, maybe if we go beyond Gautam Buddha, so there was kind of a life. Even I'm not a historian, but I have gone through. There is a pre-Arabian history where you will find a lot of what we call in Bengali is Murti or the Vigroho. So that was found in long back. So we have some heritage that is to be called Sanatan, and it is being given the
Right.
I think
we
there's
seem
some
to have
internet
lost.
connection.
Yeah.
There's
So,
some
Manish
connection.
Ranjan, if you would like to proceed with it, if you would like to take up the question further.
I think where the other left, the two things. One is that what would be the context under the current scenario, how we can relate these two under the current scenario, and what was the version of Pulin Dash. So what we told here earlier, that was the version of Pulin Dash that
am I in some way of answering the question? Shantanu.
Yes, Vishwaranjan Babu, I think, thank you for it. And Manishji, you can go on, please.
Yeah, what I was saying that relationship under the current
I think
hello.
we are having internet issues. So,
Yeah, it can be possible because it's raining very hard. I don't know whatever the other parts. It's raining hard, very hard here. I don't
right,
know
right.
what was the
Yeah, we
situation
are
in
also
other
having
parts
the
of.
same.
Hmm,
Yeah.
hmm, hmm. Yeah, so if we go on to the other question that we have, there is one question from Shanmar Pal. Shanmar asks, how can we learn more about these gymnasiums or akras that played a great role in influencing the youth to fight for independence in the early 20th century? So if I think Manishji or Vishwaranjan Babu, you can take up the question. But just to give a hint prior to your reaction, I think there is a very good project which is going on at Jadavpur University, which is being conducted by the head of the Department of English over there, which is called the Project on Physical Cultures of Bengal. This project is being headed by Professor Avijit Gupta of the Department of English, and this is covering various types of physical culture related projects that were taking place in the nationalist period. So this is just for the researcher, for leads to the researcher. But Manishji, please go ahead and answer the question.
I think the question is related to where we can get the history of the akharas which were very uh, popular or which were instrumental during the period of freedom fighting, right?
Right, right.
Yeah, that's really a sad part of the story is that unfortunately you won't get much history because there's no written down history available currently. We are also in search of doing that. So what we can from our side, what we can share with you is what is a plan of ours. That is my plan along with my elder brother, is that
Hmm,
we would try out from our side because we are also associated with Pulindash Akra since ages. For last several, from early 90s, I started going to Shomiti from 1983. So we
right.
are part of the history also, and we have seen like the paper signed by Subhash Chandra Bose is seen by me only. So unfortunately,
Mhm.
those some of the papers are lost. So we are, at least for the purpose of the history of Bongio Bam Shomiti, we are trying to jot down the history in a proper black and white form. And we know some of the histories of the other association, other old akharas also. So we are trying to
Hmm.
have a body amongst ourselves and do it from ourselves. But currently, I don't think that is widely available as a history book.
Right. Thank you so much. I think this archiving project is very required because we are fast losing all materials which exist. Almost a century ago, these things took place. So it is very important that we try to preserve it and cherish the memory that we have. I'll go on to the other question which has come, which is that usually martial art performers of India, such as in Bundi or in Kalariyapattu, they prefer to wear traditional outfit connected with their own culture. But while carrying the legacy, yeah, let me just finish it. But while carrying the legacy, you have selected Western casual outfit for your performance. Is there any particular reason behind this unusual change? This question is posed by Shawan Mukhopadhyay. So I would request you to kindly address this question.
Yeah,
Very good question. Yeah,
I,
okay.
It's more of a
yeah,
reservation than a
yeah,
question.
it is a very good question, in fact, and it is definitely depend. It depends on a personal choice. But if you have seen
Right.
Pulin Behari and in my slide as well, the Pulin Behari that when he formed the Agra, then during that period of time, they used to use dhuti and bare chested during that period of time. So the dhuti was in general our outfit. But here in this particular case, for a particular instance, maybe, so they have been quite enthusiastic to have a new outfit for the show. So they have done on their party. So that is a major reason. Manish can tell me something of that.
I think I can
Right.
add on here is that the
Please.
culture, what you, that's a very good question. Again, I'm saying because what Kalaripattu, and I've seen many of those Indian styles myself in different part of India. So what is their motto, what is their passion, what is their culture is entirely different what we want to take forward as our culture. So we want to take forward, and there is no restriction about the dress code in our culture. We want to take forward the legacy of Pulin Dash, which is the scientific background of Lathi Khala, sword techniques. So if somebody can use a Western attire and eventually take that culture, he or she can explain the science behind stick fighting, science behind sword fighting. I think we would be very, very happy.
Yeah, very well stated. Thank you so much. I just had one question from my part, which is we all know that Pulin Bihari Das died in around 1949, which is 2 years after the partition. So, what was Pulin Bihari Das's reaction to the partition and the independence of India in 1947? If you could shed light on this issue.
Uh, uh, I'll add my question and you
Yeah.
can take both the question and answer. I was just wondering. I mean, you stated that what we learned from the history book is that they came from middle class, but you spoke that he actually came from a zamindar background, and that he didn't choose to remain a loyal couturier, to the colonial master, and instead he was and he walked away from that. So I was just wondering, what was the family's reaction to this kind of radical choice? That is my question.
Yeah, the one question by Shantanu. The
Yes.
question of Shantanu was, can you just repeat just a few lines?
Yes. Vishwaranjan Babu, I asked what was Pulin Bihari Das's reaction to the partition of India and Indian independence, because he was alive at that point of time. So, how did he take it?
Yeah, the thing is, quite obviously and evidently, Pulin Behari was not very happy for this kind of independence. It was 100% sure, and what he did instead, actually, it was a blood flag, and it was truly a blood flag that was there in Bongyovan on the day of 15th August, that today my country is divided into two parts. Hence, unless and until it will be in one part, this particular blood flag will remain as a symbol of my protest. So he was not at all happy. By the way, we have the independence. So that was the answer of the first question.
Right. Thank you.
And
And to the question,
and Prithviraj, what was your question?
yeah, I think there was a
Prithviraj,
question
you are
by
asking me.
Prithviraj বিশ্বাস. If you may wish to answer that also, what was the family's reaction to this change in behavior of Pulin Bihari Das?
Well, the family's reaction was very, particularly the mother of Pulin and his brother was quite annoyed, And there has been a lot of story. It will take a little bit of time, but maybe I would like to draw in one line that he has taken money from the Jamindari during that time for the sake of organization and for the sake of homeland, which cannot be liked by the family as well. So he went out of the family, and being a eldest son, naturally he had a lot of money over there. So what he got it from there, he has used absolutely all the money for the organization as well as for the homeland.
I think I can
Manish,
just
you
add
want
on
to add
and give. I can just give you one example which probably would give you the picture, the kind of relationship Pulin had after he decided to choose this particular type of life. In Bangladesh, the place where he used to live, the Onushilan Shomiti activity was going on just in a place which is next to his house. So that used to called Shomiti Bari. So at one point in time, he had such a bad or strained relationship with his father because of this mentality. He was, though his wife and son was staying in the main house, he decided to go and stay in Shamiti Bari instead of staying in his own residence. So you can well understand the kind of tussles or the conflict he was having for choosing this kind of life for himself coming out of the Jamindar Bari.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your answers. And I think if we have any other questions from the faculty members, we can go ahead with it. Prithviraj and Gautam. If we have, then it's the
No,
best time to put it.
yeah.
Okay, so we have
No,
come to
no,
the
not from my
almost
side.
the final segment of our presentation, and I would now request my colleague Sri Gautam Mukhopadhyay from the History Department to kindly deliver the vote of thanks.
Thank you. And first of all, I would like to thank our distinguished guests, speakers, Sri Vishwaranjan Das and Monish Ranjan Das, on behalf of our institution and on behalf of the Department of History. I'd like to thank you both. Thank you for your wonderful, well organized presentation. And I would like to thank personally Dr. Prithviraj Vishwas, HOD, Department of History, for organizing this session. And also, I would like to thank my colleague, Dr. Shantanu De, for a very organized, well organized moderation of the question answer session. And on behalf of our department, my special thank to Professor Abhishek Bormon, Department of Computer Science, for his continuous support. And I would like to thank the college authority for giving us the permission to organize this session. Uh, and also, my special thanks to the college staffs, especially Mr. Ranjan Vishwas, for his continuous support. And also, I'd like to thank our viewers, our YouTube media partner, educational and cultural station, especially Mr. Ramakrishna Mondal for his technical support, and also his technical team is working with us. And lastly, I would like to thank our publicity designer, Pink Pencil. And here is an important announcement for our viewers, and it is regarding certificate. I have already noticed something in our live chat box. So please note, certificates will be sent to all pre-registered viewers only within 30th August. Please don't send any mail request asking for feedback link. Please note it, please don't send any mail request asking for feedback link. I repeat, certificates will be sent to all pre-registered viewers only within 30th August. Thank you again for joining us. Stay safe and stay healthy. Bye bye. Wish you all a very happy Independence Day in advance. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.